today is Tuesday, and I am continuing our conversation from readers of You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. My discussion today is actually based on a question that Elvira asks. Elvira is living in Romania, has read the book, You Are the Universe, and she asks the questions as follows. Are human beings the only... No, she starts by saying on page 150 of the book, You Are the Universe, you wrote, are human beings the only conscious creatures on earth? Answer from the book, no, all living creatures participate in cosmic consciousness. In fact, so-called inert objects participate in it too. And then her question is, how can inert objects participate in cosmic consciousness? How can inert objects participate in conscious objects? I would have rephrased that just a little bit. How can so-called inert objects participate in cosmic consciousness? Now, the discussion that I'm engaging I'm so sorry for the interruption, but here we are. The discussion I'm engaging in today is also a result of another discussion that I'm having with a colleague who is a neuroscientist in California, and he says that I have not responded to his question, which is, how do we all experience the same reality? How do we all experience the same external reality? He says I haven't answered his question, although actually I have answered it many times, but he seems to think I haven't answered it. So let me get his question. I'm going over my email to make sure that I am answering his question as best I can. He says that how do we basically experience the same external reality? And I'll try and answer that as well. Also, the question has come up, what is the difference between so-called Panpsychism and non-duality, and also between what is called naive realism and scientific realism? So these are very important questions for us to address if we want to understand reality. So let me try and answer these questions as best I can, okay? So let me go back to what is naive realism. And here's a quote from Einstein. Naive realism states that things are as they are perceived by us through the senses. This illusion dominates the daily life of men and animals. It is also the point of departure in all of the sciences, especially of the natural sciences. So this is a direct quote from Einstein from his publication Ideas and Opinions, New York, Crown Publishers, 1954. By the way, Crown Publishers are also my publishers. So here's a comment on naive realism and scientific realism. Like any process of refinement, one could draw the line in various places. Naive realism begins by considering as real ordinary objects of experience, such as rocks, etc. Scientific realism could be considered to begin when the objects that are considered to be real are abstract theoretical entities of scientific theories that have no counterpart in everyday experience. A few examples of such entities include atoms, elementary particles, electromagnetic fields, black holes, and quasars. So scientific realism takes off from the springboard of common sense or naive realism. Okay, now let's try and answer this question in the best way we can. Okay, so if I were to ask you, what is this object, you would say it's an iPad, right? If I were to ask you, what is this object, you would say it's a bracelet. If I were to ask you, what are those objects behind me, you would say they seem to be stools. That's a statue, that's a sofa, etc. So, as I've said before, those are human constructs for modes of knowing and experience, perceptual experience. They are human constructs for modes of knowing and experience. This is a human construct as a book. This is a human construct as a body. This is a human construct as a hand. But what is the actual experience? Let's say we don't call these objects, we call them experiences, because that which we call an object is the objectification of an experience. Without having the experience, you cannot name an object. So before the human construct book, visually this is an experience of color and form. This is an experience of color and form, and this is also an experience of color and form, and this is also an experience of color and form. In fact, color, form, and shape are defined by seeing. Color, form, and shape are defined by seeing, by the activity that we call seeing. And seeing cannot be separated from that which we call color, shape, and form, objectified ultimately as an object of experience. So seeing cannot be separated from that which is seen as color, shape, and form. They're all the same thing, by the way. And seeing cannot happen in the absence of a witnessing awareness. Seeing cannot happen in the absence of a witnessing awareness. That witnessing awareness, which I call me, the little me, is at this moment having the experience of seeing this body, not necessarily in the mirror of the camera, but also as having the experience, I can see my hand, I can see that which I call my body. And at the same time, simultaneously, I can see that which I call the book, or that which I call the furniture, or that which I call the body. So, awareness is seeing itself as both the subject of experience, the body-mind, and all the objects of experience right now, locally. Awareness knows itself both as seer and scenery. Awareness knows itself both as seer and scenery. But it also knows itself in other forms, such as sound, such as taste and smell, such as texture, etc. Sound, texture, smell, taste. These are modes of perception. And modes of perception cannot be separated from the awareness in which these perceptions are occurring, because these perceptions are actually modifications of awareness as both the subject of experience and the object of experience. The object of experience is a name and a description to a mode of knowing and experiencing that in this case we are calling perception. The word book is a human construct, it's a thought. And it could be a pleasurable thought because I'm very proud of the book, or it could be a thought that is distressing if the book is used as a hammer to knock somebody on the head. All objects, so-called objects, are symbolic expressions or symbols for modes of knowing and experience. In reality, there are no objects. The object is a human construct. What is the origin of thought? Estelle asks. The origin of thought is consciousness modifying itself as a thought. Think of your mother. Think of an apple. Think of a rainbow. Think of a strawberry. As soon as you did that, you had an experience, either an image or a taste. That was a modification of the self. The self is not the ego self. The self is the awareness that knows itself as the body-mind and the experience that goes along with the body-mind. What I've said about seeing applies to hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. All modified forms of experience and in turn perceptions. Now we agree on our constructs, we agree on our labels, we agree that this is a book, we agree that that is a stool or furniture, we agree that this is a hand or a body. But we don't actually know whether you're having the same experience as I am. I assume that you are. I assume that what I call blue is the same experience blue for you, but I don't know. And then of course we have synesthetes who experience color as sound and form as taste and taste as smell or smell as sound, because ultimately all there is modifications of awareness. And at the deep level, these modifications of awareness are entangled. I hate to use the word quantum entanglement because physicists have their own definitions of quantum entanglement. But what we can say at the most fundamental levels of reality, as we go to microscopic levels and submicroscopic levels and ultra-structural levels, then everything is inseparable from everything else. Every experience is inseparable from every other experience. Thought, feeling, images, sounds and perceptions and forms and textures and tastes are all inseparably entangled with each other. And we can see this from common sense too. If you go to a party and I tell you that that person over there is wanted for armed robbery, and I tell somebody else that that person, the same person, just won the Nobel Prize, and I don't tell you what I've told him, both of you will perceive that person differently. But in general, we agree about our collective perceptions. I would say we agree about our collective labels of perceptions, in which we actually don't for certain know what the perception of another being is. We generally agree about our human perceptions, but we don't have any idea what the perceptions of other species are. So thought, feeling, emotion, images, imagination, and sound, touch, sight, taste, texture, perceptions, mental events are all entangled. We call some of them internal and some of the external, but actually external and internal do not apply if all there is consciousness modifying itself as experience. The more subtle aspects of it we call mental, the more gross aspects or perceptual aspects of it we call physical. Again, human constructs. In the deeper reality, there's no mind, there's no body, there's no universe, there's just consciousness eternally modifying itself as space-time, energy, information, and matter, but those again are labels. So, Panpsychism states that every bit of physical matter has its own little bit of consciousness. So atoms and subatomic particles are conscious. Freeman Dyson, in his book Infinite in All Directions, says every quantum experiment forces the atom to make a choice. Well, that's panpsychism. Max Tegmark is a panpsychist. He says consciousness is organized matter. I once asked him, why isn't it the other way around? Why isn't matter organized consciousness? I didn't get a response. But panpsychism actually assumes the existence of matter. And so what I'm saying is that matter doesn't exist. Matter is a name given to a certain mode of experience, and that mode of experience is shape, color, form, and texture, and sound, and so on, solidity, etc. Or we can extend that to other entities, including atoms, elementary particles, electromagnetic fields, black holes, quasars, all names and descriptions given to modes of human knowing and experience. But useful constructs because they help us to do science. They help us to do science. And science is a method of inquiry, a human method of inquiry in human consciousness, gives us answers to questions we ask. But the questions are asked in consciousness. The experiments are done in consciousness. The theories are constructs in consciousness. And the observations are also modes of knowing in consciousness. So the difference between panpsychism and non-duality is, and I'll come back to that in 15 seconds. So the difference between panpsychism and non-duality. Non-duality says reality is one, and perceptions are innumerable. That one reality is awareness or consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And perceptions are innumerable. There are human perceptions, there are crocodile perceptions, there are mosquitoes that perceive, and worms that perceive, and dolphins and snakes and birds. And we are one particular species of awareness, but perceptions are innumerable. And then even within the species itself, particularly the human species, there are innumerable perceptions. There are experiments that have been done on people who were blind from a very early age, and when their vision was restored through, say, retinal surgery, they could not adjust to seeing as we know seeing. They could not see objects as we know them. In fact, the restoration of vision caused even bigger problems. Like at first they would only see pixels, and then they would see odd shapes and colors and forms without giving that the label that we call book or this kind of body, this appearance of the body, or that furniture and so on. These are labels that we learn to use at a very early stage of life, as soon as we begin to experience perception. We are given labels for those modes of perceptions, and then we objectify the modes of perception as objects of experience. So, to go back to the question asked by Elvira, do objects participate in consciousness? The answer, Elvira, is objects are just names to symbols of experience. I would elaborate. Objects are names and symbols for modes of experience. That includes the object that you call your body. In fact, your body is just an intermittent stream of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. Your body is you as awareness modifying itself as this stream of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that over time change. So you don't experience the same body today that you experienced when you were a baby. So I hope I've answered the question that Elvira has asked. Do objects participate in cosmic consciousness? Objects are symbols of consciousness. There are no objects. Every form is a phenomenon, and every phenomenon is the arising and subsiding of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts in human awareness, the ones that we call objects. We cannot know, and we do not know the experience of other species. So I hope that satisfies you, Elvira. There is only being. Being is impersonal. Being is the same thing as awareness. And awareness knows itself as innumerable modes of knowing. Even innumerable knowers, because in each knowing is a different knower. Innumerable objects that we call the known. But in the deeper reality, knower, knowing, and known, seer, seeing, and scenery, perceiver, perceiving, and perceived are just the excitations of a single awareness. which is non-local. There's another construct, human construct, called the quantum vacuum, because all things that we have names for are constructs: subatomic particles, black holes, bosons, quasars, whatever. These are human constructs. But there's a construct called the quantum vacuum, and the quantum vacuum is non-local, prior to space-time. So we cannot know what caused the Big Bang. We cannot know what existed before the Big Bang, because all our knowing is within the construct of space-time and causality. And to come up with a construct like the quantum vacuum, that construct would say there's no space-time either in the quantum vacuum. But there is existence, because that existence gives rise to space-time, information, energy, and matter as constructs. But right now, if you close your eyes, then all form disappears, and all you can experience is amorphous, intermittent sensations. But you can also experience images and thoughts. Okay. But as you transcend thought through meditation, then all sensations disappear, all images disappear, all thoughts disappear, and what's left is existence without form, without thought, without image, without sensation, and without perception. This is what the wisdom traditions teach us, and the contemplative techniques of meditation teach us. Is there existence without thought, without images, without sensations, without perceptions? And you cannot come to that without transcendence. And you cannot experience transcendence other than through meditation, or what are called peak experiences, where seer and scenery become one, where observer and observed become one, where thinker and thought become one, where knower and known become one. This is an experience I have every day, and thousands of people have this every day. Existence in the absence of form and phenomenon, in the absence of the experience of space-time and causality. Existence as pure awareness. So even the silent witnessing awareness, which cannot be separated from an experience, even that drops away, and all that's left is awareness, existence, and truth. Awareness, existence, and truth. That which in Indian philosophy, Vedanta, is called Sat Chit Anand. Sat means truth, Chit means awareness or knowingness, the knowing element in every experience. Sat Chit Ananda, eternal bliss, timeless, spaceless, non-local, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. Those I know sound like religious words, but that's what non-locality implies. And quantum entanglement is a human construct for that particular knowing, that deep, deep, deep in the nature of reality. We are members of one body, we are members of one mind, and we are one consciousness. That is also called the state of enlightenment. Okay, who would you be? What would you be in the absence of perception, mental activity, and constructs. That would be pure existence, pure consciousness. Okay, I've gone on long enough, but I hope I've answered your question anyway, Elvira. I'm sure my neuroscientist friend will say I still haven't answered his question, but that's another story. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for supporting this book. Without your support, this would not have become a New York Times bestseller, even though everything is a construct. The book, the body, the mind, and the bestseller. Take care.